Okay, so, oh, I see Cressica just joined us, so, um, in terms of the people who are there, Dick, you have to say, Cressica, Bill,
Here.
Holly,
Here.
Janice, you're muted.
Here.
I'm doing the roll call, so you have to answer. Come
I
back.
thought I did answer. I'm here.
Yeah, you're muted. Cressica,
Here.
yeah, Myra,
Here.
okay. So that we have, is anybody else in the room that I missed? That I can't see?
No,
Okay.
we can't see them either.
Um, okay. Now we have the minutes from last meeting. Now I just heard, Bill, that you were making some corrections.
Yeah. Apparently I was incomprehensible when I made those statements. I was trying to become less so.
So what do you want to just read off? Carrie, do you want to just read off the corrections before we vote on them?
Sure. In the approval of the minutes of October 8th, the discussion, Bill Thomas asked about the library's solar installation contract and offered to keep data on energy use before and after weatherization. He stated that that should say continue to keep data. Because he's been doing that all along. And then on page 2, the second paragraph from the bottom, there's little to no insulation in the walls at the firehouse, which leads to possible use of heat pumps. That didn't make much sense, so we made that clearer to say, which makes installation of heat pumps problematic. And then on page 5, the second to the last bullet point, new homes are going to be built according to codes of the people. We changed of to understood by the people who are designing the homes. And then further down. Where is that? Page 5. Right. Second to the last bullet paragraph. People who already have homes? Yep. Where is that? Homes are going to be built according to codes understood by the people who are designing the homes. And then a little further down, existing homes are not going to be impacted by new codes unless they're conditional. Didn't really make much sense. So we took out that unless they're conditional. Okay. Those were the corrections.
Any other comments or corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
This is Janice. I second.
Okay, and in favor, I'll do the people on Zoom first, so I'm in favor. Myra?
Favor.
Janice?
Favor, yes.
Cressica?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dick?
Yep.
Holly?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's done. So moving on to updates of ongoing projects. The library, anything to add on, anything to update on the library, Cressica?
We're still working on both the solar contract and the heat pump quotes. So we don't have any updates since last month.
Right. Yeah, we're having a conversation, a couple of us with the Solar Logics folks tomorrow about the library contract. I think we're about ready to go ahead. If anybody has any particular concerns, you can let us know. We are trying to get additional quotes for the heat pumps, and it's taken a while, but we're working on it. Anything new on the municipal building?
we're still working on the approvals for the grant and the solar array. And yeah, we have a couple more months of that work probably. So
Hmm,
that's the extent. I don't know. I don't have any updates on the Up Island public safety garage,
okay.
but I'll have a meeting tomorrow, so maybe I'll hear something.
Yeah, I did hear from somebody, I think was saying they really wanted to make sure that at least somebody from the committee was in touch with the team as that goes forward. So um, I don't know when they're planning. I heard they were planning to get started in the spring sometime.
Fred Porter expressed concern that someone
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it must have been, he was probably the one that said that. And anything new on the EV charger?
Nothing that I've heard.
Okay,
I'm assuming that nothing's gonna happen until they move forward with the, health center and, start moving things around. But I don't know anything for sure.
okay. Dick, the main utility rate updates?
I sent, I think I sent one to you, Harriet, about, the time of use rates, and I got a couple of pass outs, which I can do here.
Okay,
I had a lot of contact with, the utility commission in the last few days. My effort, as you can see from my right, was to try to, see if we can get a time of use rate, not only for projects on the island, that's everybody. We want time of use for battery charging for the new ferry.
Right.
And it would be significant savings. I have the rates, for example, about half price off peak as they are. This is right in front of me here. This is CMP. And I'm in the process of finding out which company actually serves the ferry. If it's Next Energy, which I think it might be, or New Brunswick Power, both of them offer off-peak rates all over their own service area, but not in Maine.
mhm,
Utility Commission, and I have a handout, suggested that we file a petition with the board, once I get the facts together. I haven't got them all faxed yet, I haven't got them all fixed out yet. As soon as we discover who the supplier of power is for the ferry, that'll give us a leg up on obviously keeping it here, because we file a petition. We can get off-peak power, so
mhm.
they can charge the future batteries, and at the same time, we'll use that same power company, presumably for off-peak power here for everyone on the island if they want it, optional. And I did fail, and I did not send out buyers on off-peak equipment, which is readily available. I'll get it out. I have no financial interest, by the way, in any of this. Probably should, but I don't. So in any event, the jury is out on it. I'll have to come back to the committee, presumably, maybe even before the January meeting, and see if we can adopt a resolution for the utility commission for off-peak power for the island as a demonstration to work with a microgrid, because you're going to need it with a microgrid. Because solar panels are much more efficient if you charge batteries, and if you charge batteries when the sun isn't shining with off-peak power, you got both. And
Right.
that's what I'm shooting for. And if you heat the house at the same time, you're really in the game.
Right.
So that's my report. I'm
So-
working. Holly was
Okay.
nice enough to help me a little bit today.
I did see in the email from Janice, and I can't remember who else was on that email, that she wanted, before they signed any contract with Maine Public Option or something other than
Right.
CMB standard offered, she wanted to know that it was something that the committee as a whole recommended. And I understand you've been doing all the work on this, but we probably need to run it by the rest of the committee and find out if other people agree, have concerns, have other thoughts about it, before finalizing it.
I do plan to attend the select board meeting on the 18th. And
Okay.
we have the results of the my main power options, use of power for the last 12 months or the last period for the municipal accounts. They're in the process of putting it together. I talked to them this morning.
When does Janet have to know by?
I'm sorry,
When does Janet need an answer?
you don't need to vote on anything at the moment, except that I want the committee to be aware of the fact that we've been given a green light to submit a proposal to the utility commission. which
No.
will-
Dick, what I want to know is when does Janet have to sign for the next rate thing?
The next contract,
Yes,
Oh.
the next contract.
Oh, yeah. So-
when does Janet have to sign for that day?
Oh, she doesn't have to sign anything at the moment. Wait till the 18th of the select board meeting. I've been asked to postpone any decision on that matter until the select board meets. Because at that point, we'll have a new contract rate from Constellation and Maine Power Options. And we can vote yes or no. If you vote no, we get the standard offer. So there's no real earth-shattering decision to be made. But the select board requested that they wanted a little more information on the subject, and of course, I'm glad to give it.
Right, but it also, I mean, I think it would be helpful to circulate that to the rest of the committee before you present it to the select board, make sure that none, the rest of the people on the committee at least are in agreement or don't have any major objections, because I think when you go to the select board, if you're talking on behalf of the committee, you need to be sure that everybody is in agreement, or at least the majority are in agreement.
Have a number quotation for the next year's contract for Maine Power Options until the 18th or 17th, the day before. Because
Okay,
the price of power changes every day.
right,
Harry,
It'll be less.
I think it would be important for the committee all to have the information prior to having a conversation together, just so that everybody understands what everybody thinks everybody understands before we give a committee response. Just so, in other words, not just send it out and have people read it, but that happened, and then we all say, we read it, we understand it, we agree. Just
When anything.
like a vote, no?
My question is, if I understand Dick correctly, he's not gonna have the number until the day before the select
That's
board.
correct.
So how can we agree before it's submitted? Because he's saying it changes daily.
Yeah, if it's less than the standard offer, my suggestion is we sign a contract for at least 12 months. But if it's more than the standard offer, just don't sign anything and automatically the municipality goes to standard offer on all municipal accounts.
right. The standard offer rate for 2025 has been published. It's like
Yes,
10
it's-
point.
It's correct, that is correct. And if I recall, it's 10.8 cents, something like that, and Maine Power Options was 10.3 or
Isn't
something.
it 10.08?
I think it's 10.08 or 05, something like that. Yeah.
I don't want to miss the decimal point. 10.0 for standard offer. And if we can beat that, if Maine Power Options can beat it, it will be a no-brainer for, really.
Harriet?
Yeah,
I think the only way to get the committee on board with whatever's presented to the select board is to have a special meeting that day or the day before.
mm,
Otherwise, this is just a renewal of a contract or a similar contract the select board has already approved.
Mm.
And you may not need this committee's approval because the select board has already approved the current contract.
well, let me ask the question this way. Does anybody have an objection if the rate they quote is less than the standard offer for 2025 to going ahead with the Maine Power Option contract?
I just have a question. Is there any
Yeah.
chance that the CMP rate will change over the year? Or is it set for the whole year?
That's for the whole
Yes,
year.
there's a chance. Last year, it went down in the middle of the year
Yeah,
from 10.83 to 10.6 or 10.84 to 10.64. And now for 2025, it's set at 10.61, not 10.81. So the rate has gone down for next year, even lower than it is right now.
Yeah, so if it doesn't go down much, it doesn't matter, but if it goes down a lot and undercuts the standard offer, that's when it would matter.
Correct.
And if you sign a contract with CMP, do you get the same rate the whole year or?
CMP's rates controlled by the Utility Commission, and they can petition anything they want. I suspect that they aren't gonna change very much. But what we're talking about basically is unregulated supply. And that's why it's the supply company can change the rate from time to time. But they'll sign a year-long contract.
Well, all I'm asking is this just a crapshoot across the year, whether each company will change its rates, or are we guaranteed a rate once we make up our mind?
We take up our minds, we will be guaranteed a rate on the supply if we sign a contract for 1 year or 2 years. They have a 2 year, I have 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out, whatever. Take 1 year at a time, but then we get the rate that's fixed for the year.
Yeah, but Janice, it's not a contract with CMP, it's a contract with Maine Power Options.
Exactly.
Yeah,
CMP
so we signed the contract so that the idea of signing that contract is to lock in a specific rate, which we would hope is lower than the standard offer that's, given by CMP. I think lately CMP has been reducing its rates, and Dick probably can speak on this a lot, but usually utility will ask to raise rates for a certain amount of time to pay off things, to raise money, whatever they need to raise money to do. And then they'll lower them back down. So I don't know exactly what's going on at the Maine PUC right now, but clearly they're bringing them down again. So we're kind of making a bet, like, I don't know if it's going to go down much less, and so it doesn't really matter, or do we just want to say CMP's, the standard offer seems to be going down for all, it's not just, it's for all customers, not just us, obviously, or do we want to go with Constellation, which will lock in a specific rate, but it may end up being higher than.
Right, that's what I was asking, whether this is a bet, or if it's a way to, and it sounds like we can't really tell.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't know
Can I-
if, go ahead, Krasika. Yeah, maybe you
Oh,
have
sorry.
a sense of the direction of these rates.
Yes, I do. From the past two quotes from Maine Power Options and Constellation. 2 months ago, the rate was 10.35 cents or something like that, and it went up by 0.1 cent over the last month. So, in the senior business development manager, Mr. Cloutier, said that it will be likely to go up again in December and January. So he recommended waiting until the spring or something like that. So to wait out the higher rates in the winter to get a better rate in the spring, to lock that in for a year, potentially.
Information we should share with the select board, I think, to kind of say, we don't have to sign this right now. The rates are low. We're not going to hit a shock spike, anytime soon. So wait out to the spring and then revisit if you want to sign a contract with them.
That makes sense.
Okay, so Dick, it sounds like the people here think it might be best to wait see what quote you get on the 17th, but that it might be better to wait before signing a contract.
So we have the standard offer, which is pretty stable in the sense that the Utility Commission watches over it,
Right.
but they do not regulate it. Because they can't look at the books of the utility. In my experience, that's what we did. We had chief accountant look at the books.
Right.
But we can't do that with the supply, the way the wage structure is in May.
Right.
I also want to mention one more thing about this. When we're talking about variations of 0.1 cent in different rates, we're talking about a savings of on the order of $100 to the town, likely not more than like $150.
Doesn't matter much. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah,
That's
it
good.
really doesn't matter much. Last year we lost over $100 because of the Constellation rate coming out higher for the contract than the standard offer was. So we have to take those things into consideration.
All right. Well, that's good to put it in context like that. Okay, so moving on to the community event. As most of you know, we had an informational event last week on Saturday, where we had lunch provided by the Energy Hub. And I think there were about 20 people there who were not committee members. And, it was really quite a nice discussion. We tried to keep it open-ended, and I think there was a lot of comments generated. I got a few pieces of feedback. One was just about the acoustics. Some people said they had trouble hearing. So we had to take that into consideration the next time we do one, whether we have microphones or a different room. I think that, the people who came, for the most part, were interested. There were no vocal naysayers. One piece of feedback was the thought that the next time people wanted to hear a more detailed plan, which is a little bit problematic. I don't know how we could probably give more detail than we give, but we can't publish a plan identifying private landowners until, that's nailed down more directly, and we need the engineering studies. We probably need to explain that. We need funding for the engineering studies before we get to the level of a detailed plan. We were talking about doing an additional event in January. A lot of this is to get community feedback and support for the upcoming grant applications. And I think we talked about January 18th. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Any other comments?
I put some notes onto the hub
Okay.
site. I think I still have a couple more questions I have to transcribe into there, but I didn't know the names of everybody who was there. So if you want to look at the list and see who was there, I was in the other room figuring out how to work the dishwasher with Candace, and when I came in, you guys were already going. So I got distracted and I didn't count how many people were there, and I didn't get a good list of who was there. So we need to make sure we do that next time. But if you could look at the notes and see if you remember who was there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that we should have a sign up sheet or sign in sheet, so that they're signed up for emails or something from us, because that was the other thing, they said they wanted more communication and more arrive to you communication, and that people would not go to the website. So
Right.
post in Facebook, post in mailers, post in constant contact.
Right. Yeah.
Assume that, Jessica, you'll be circulating the grant application or whatever to the committee in advance of submitting it. In other words, we'll get to see it and comment on it.
Well, it's not written yet, so the deadline is December 17th. So
Oof,
Thank you.
it's a week.
Yeah, I have Cressica and I went through some of the questions, and I tried filling in the blanks, and I'm going to start working on the text of the grant. So, I mean, it's going to be a mad dash to get it done.
Yeah. So, well, we can go, we might as well segue right into number 6 on the agenda, the funding opportunities, since we brought that up. Janice is referring to due on December 17th is the Community Accelerator Prize, which is a
Round
smaller
three.
three.
It's round three, right?
Yeah, round three.
Round three, but
Um,
phase one.
And that's a prize which gives out $50,000 initially, and then if you meet certain milestones, you can then get additional funding as part of that prize. It's not as, the second piece of it is not as competitive as the first piece. And then what that would provide would be, again, additional funding to help, we need funding to begin the planning and also to obtain additional funding. There's a platform with other, gives access to other potential funders. And then the other grant is is a much larger grant, the OCED grant. The application is due in February for that one. And any other comments or questions that people have about those right now?
Question, who will the grant application be submitted to, Jessica? Who is the recipient of this? Where's the grant money coming from?
Department of Energy,
The Department of Energy?
both
Not
of them.
The state of Maine.
No.
I have a question. That second grant that you just mentioned, what's the name of that one? Due in February?
Well, the acronym is OCED, and it's a Rural Communities. Prescott, do you remember the exact name? I don't have it in front of me.
Sure. It's the Department of Energy, Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. And the name of the grant is the Energy Improvements in Remote and Rural Areas.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, going back to the updates, the firehouse project, Bill, do you want to update on that?
I know, okay, so the one thing we do have that's new, I think some of you have heard of this. We have Evergreen coming to do an energy audit of the firehouse on January 14th. Fred has said he will be there. Monica can be there. I will be there. Mert said he might be there, he might not be there, but it doesn't really matter. So that's where we stand at the moment. But Evergreen will be here. I'll be transporting them and probably tracking down a ladder so that they can get up into the area. Anybody else who would like to be there is welcome. And then the goal of this is to get some assessment of the current state of the firehouse insulation and weatherization, because the last time Evergreen was here, they dealt only with the enclosure into the attic. And there was a cursory glance across the attic, but no further probing was done at the time. So this is an effort to find out if it's worth doing anything up there to improve the energy efficiency of the building.
All right. And I didn't put it on the agenda, but do you want to mention, I know we sent out you wrote a nice summary of the Waldo County Climate Change Coalition.
Yeah, a couple of things that I didn't mention. I don't know. Let me just ask, does anyone have any questions? The report was as thorough as I could remember in terms of important details. There are a few little nuances that I didn't, but
Bill,
yeah.
Could you perhaps, since this will be in the minutes for the rest of the town, just provide a brief summary of who they are and what the meeting was about?
Okay, this was the monthly meeting of the Waldo County Climate Action Committee, which is a loose coalition of a number of pre-existing organizations in Waldo County specifically, or more localized in Belfast. The coalition came into existence within the past year. largely because of people's concerns that the Belfast area was too focused on Belfast and there wasn't enough being done to reach out further into Waldo County at large. Do you need more than that, or is that adequate?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The group was very welcoming. Does anybody have any questions about the summary? I'll add one or two details if not.
Is there any focus on the energy part?
Oh, there is. There was a little report at this meeting on energy. However, that's wrong. There was the large section that I wrote up in the summary about concern for trailer inhabitants, people who live in small trailers, and trying to make those more energy efficient. Those are often the people who most need the help and who can least manage to do things for themselves. And as always, it's hard to find money to do that. There was a small pilot project that just did for free 100 trailers, apparently. I don't know much about it. It was mentioned in passing, and everyone was very pleased with that, but that was only 100 trailers, and there are a whole lot more in Waldo County. And so the question is, how do you bring the same level of upgrade to the bulk of people who need help? That's the only real energy issue that came up in this last meeting.
Do we know how they generally heat those trailers? Is there any general consensus on that? Are they?
I don't know. I don't remember that's having been mentioned. Maybe it just went over my head, but I don't remember that. Whatever it was, it's not particularly good.
I would assume that. I would assume it's fossil energy too.
I think a lot of them are fossil fuel heated. That's what I heard when I talked with, I can't remember her name, the woman who chairs the coalition.
Linda was the one who, the librarian was the one who ran the meeting this time in the absence of some other individual who normally does it. The person who picked me up at the ferry was Karen Converse.
Oh yeah, that's the person I had talked to. Yeah, Karen.
She seems to be a relatively active individual in the coalition.
Mm.
A couple of asides. So for example, one of the members of the coalition was the co-op. And the issue that I wrote up about liners of cups and whatnot, the recycling of plastic utensils came because the co-op has been working pretty hard to be green about the way they run their establishment. And it has proven to be a challenge. I think, I've forgotten the name of the individual who was there representing the co-op, but he said there's something like 16,000 different components to plastics these days, at least that many at any rate, and that each one of them has an impact upon how and whether a particular piece of plastic is recyclable. And trying to find out which components are in which pieces of plastic is, a nightmare. So they're all struggling with information about how best to recycle the sea of plastic we have to deal with.
Any other questions for Bill? So moving on, I didn't circulate a budget summary because there really wasn't much to put on it. We haven't spent any money in the last month. The only thing that's come up in the last month was, some of you may remember that the SHAD-F, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the Sustainable Housing Development Foundation. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yeah. That's because
run by John Cower. They donated $5,000 to the Energy Hub last year, with the understanding and the expectation that we were at that time applying for additional funding, and we would use it to help fund a joint solar array project that's been put on hold. So they requested that perhaps we could return that money, with the possibility of, they would donate something like that in the future, but this would be it could then be put to use for the Up Island Church, right, where they are doing additional weatherization, insulation. They did window inserts. So I have been in touch with Janet and Brian about getting that done. Bill, you raised your hand?
No, you just said it. I mean, they wanted to use the money more immediately, for an immediate need rather than having it sit on the shelf for our future need.
That was the only thing. So we already discussed the future funding and the grant operations, grant applications rather. I guess I didn't put it down here as a separate agenda item. There's not much. Cressica, did you want to update on any prize activities?
Unless you can think of anything, I
Well,
cannot.
Kizzy has resigned. I'm not sure
Yeah.
anybody had heard that. That was just a couple of days ago. I think there was a lot of uncertainty about, the funding was going to run out, and I think it was difficult for her to deal with that level of uncertainty, and so she resigned. So, I guess the other thing, we are planning to move ahead with applying for an island fellow. I think that's not due until February. And if approved, that person would not start until September. So future help, but it's not for right now. Any other business?
I have one thing.
Okay.
I attended the select board via Zoom just to let them know we're applying for these grants.
Yeah.
And Janet was really feeling overwhelmed about the idea of managing grants that we get. So she wants us to talk to her and Brian about how the money would be managed once we get it. I think she's thinking we need to do that ourselves, and we just have to get more details about what that would look like.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it seems like that would be perfectly reasonable. I mean, it will go into a town account, so it would have to go through the town treasurer somehow.
Right. So I'm not sure what her concerns are. I haven't had a chance to sit down with her and talk to her yet.
So is that something we need to go over with her before we submit the application, or she more like, if we get the funding, then we should sit down and talk?
I hope it's if we get the funding, we sit down, because I don't really have time to do it this week.
Oh yeah, but that one's a small one. I mean, the bigger
is.
one would really be more the issue. Yeah, okay. Sounds like probably more if the funding actually happens, or maybe before we submit the OCED grant, we can have a conversation with her. Okay, we're submitting this. If it goes through, this is how we'll handle it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I think we could probably look for ways to take the burden off of her.
Well, she wanted us to apply when we apply for the fellow, make grant maintenance part of the fellow's job, and I'm not sure that's what we want to do with the fellow.
Harriet,
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize this, but I will say the NIH and NSF grants that I had to be administered, and I just kept Excel spreadsheets and was in contact with the granting officer periodically. It wasn't a big deal.
Okay. Yeah, I would think that would be something that we could manage. The problem with the fellow is, I don't know if the funding for the grant goes beyond the term of the fellow. But
well, I'm pretty sure it's not actually like writing the checks and doing that that's bothering her. I think it's keeping track of what the grant requires for reports and all that. And that probably is us that should be doing that.
Yeah, that actually would. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So our next meeting, any other comments? So we can end early. Our next meeting is Tuesday, January 14th. Um, so, I guess we have a movement to adjourn
Sure, I'll make that movement.
and second. Okay, I guess I'm in favor. Myra,
Favor?
Trevor,
Aye.
Cressica,
Yep.
Janice,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Holly.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned. See you all in January.
Thanks.
Okay,
Good night,
bye.
everybody. Have a good Christmas, everybody.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas.
absolutely. Same to you. Bye.
No matter what, I'm gonna copy it for nothing, mostly.